Okay, moving on to lesson 3.5, slope-intercept form and graphing using slope-intercept form. Remember, most linear equations come in the form of ax plus by equals c. Well, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where your y-intercept is b and your slope, that thing that we were finding in lesson 3.4, is going to be your m in this case. So looking at these equations in guided practice 1, it says find the slope and y-intercept of the graph of the equation. Well, these are already in slope-intercept form, right? They already are in y equals m, a number x, plus b, a number b. So now we just need to identify which is our slope and which is our y-intercept. So looking at 2x plus 1, remember, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So the number attached to the x is the slope. So in this case, my slope is going to be 2. I would like you to get used to writing your slope always as a fraction. Remember, if there is no number under a number, there can always be a 1. So my slope in this case is 2 over 1. My y-intercept is going to be 1. Looking at the next one, y is equal to negative 2x minus 3. The number in front of the x is negative 2 over 1. And my y-intercept is negative 3. Y equals x plus 4. Well, if there's no number in front of the x, that means that it's going to be a 1 over 1. The y-intercept is 4. Then here, we have y is equal to 0.5x. Well, in this case, you could write 0.5 as your slope, but you should also know that 0.5 as a fraction is 1/2. And I'll explain why later it's important that you write your slopes as fractions. And my y-intercept is negative 2.5. Remember, we spent time finding y-intercepts before. And we should know that the y-intercept is where our graph crosses the y-axis. So, writing equations in slope-intercept form. Well, when you're writing the equation in slope-intercept form, all you need to do is solve for y, which we have done this before, okay? It's always important that you solve for y. So, looking at the first one, well, looks like y is already isolated. So my slope-intercept form is negative x plus 2. My slope, remember, is the number in front of the x. So in this case, there's no number there. So remember, it's always going to be 1, but there's also a negative there. So my slope is going to be negative 1. Remember, I want you to write as a fraction, so it's always going to be over 1 if it's not already a fraction. The y-intercept is the b, and that's 2. For this second one, instead of having, this does not look like y equals mx plus b. Okay, it needs to look like this. So we're actually going to take this and divide each of these out. So we get y is equal to x over 2 plus 3 over 2. So in this case, all we did was take each of these and divide them out so that we can separate them as a fraction, so that it looks like y equals mx plus b. We're still not quite there yet. X over 2, what's the number that's in front of the x? It's a 1. So it's 1/2 x plus 3/2. So our slope is 1/2 and our y-intercept is 3/2. Y equals negative 4, already in slope-intercept form. This is one of those special lines, okay? We've talked about these a couple times before, but remember, we have our coordinate plane, our x and our y-axis. When we graph these, we go to where y is equal to -4, which would be like right here, and we would draw a horizontal line going the opposite way that the y is going. In this case, when we have a horizontal line, our slope is always going to be 0. And in this case, our y-intercept, where our graph crosses the y-axis, is -4. Now here's the most important one, because this is the one that you're going to come across the most. 2x minus 4y equals 16. This is in that standard form that we're used to seeing, but it needs to be in slope-intercept form. In order to be in slope-intercept form, we need to solve for y, get y by itself. So let's decide first what is happening to y. Well, order of operations would tell me that y is being multiplied by not just 4, but -4. Then it would tell me that I'm adding, because my 2x is positive, 2x. Remember, when we're solving for a given variable, we need to do the reverse opposite. So instead of adding 2x, I am going to subtract 2x from both sides. And I get -4y, because these cancel, equals, now it's important here that I put the x value first, because it's going to be helpful when getting this into slope-intercept form. And this 16 is positive, so it's just going to be plus 16. Then, -4 times y. So how do we get rid of something that's being multiplied by -4? We divide by everything by -4. So now to simplify this, I'm going to go ahead and bring it over to the other side. These cancel. We get y is equal -2 over -4. Well, that's actually positive 2 over 4, which we will simplify in just a second, plus 16 over -4. Positive 16 divided by -4 is -4. I can simplify this just a little bit more, and I'm going to put it up here. 2/4. If we can simplify a fraction, I always want you to simplify the fraction. 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2. So we have y is equal to 1/2 x minus 4. So my slope in this case is the m value, the value in front of the x. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b, is 1/2. And where it crosses the y-axis is -4.